The world's 11th largest economy with a per capita GNI of 30,000 US dollars, Korea, and its high-energy capital, Seoul, moves at a pace that rivals the world's busiest with its pulsing creative energy and innovation. Here in Seoul, the economic hub of Northeast Asia, we delve deeper into Korea's economy and what goes on around the world. I'm your host, Panita Bajaj. Every week, the Chamber will discuss major economic issues with top experts. This week on the Chamber, we discuss the sharing economy with panelist Todd Sample and special guest Lee Sang-hyun, head of public policy at Airbnb Korea.
And for those of you guys who are interested and curious about Korea's economy and what goes on around the world, we are here in Seoul, the economic hub of Northeast Asia. So without further ado, let's step into the Chamber.
시장의 주된 목욕을 키친 신장에서
It has sparked a debate on whether the government should encourage the growth of sharing economy platforms or continue protecting traditional businesses and workers.
So today we're joined by a very special guest, Lee Sang-hyun, but you told me I could call you
Sang or Sang-hyun. Yes.
Sang-hyun, is that all right? Head of public policy of Airbnb here in Korea, the perfect guest for today's topic.
Guest.
Yeah. So now let's zoom in on the sharing economy, one of the main keywords of Industry 4.0. The sharing economy is now quite a big part of our lives, but wondering when it first appeared, how did it start?
I don't think I know when it actually first started, because if you think about it, historically, communities have always been sharing their assets for productions or when we even eat, we share all the time. But it's just that I think things have not been as popular as it is now back in the 80s, because we saw exponential growth, which brought like mass production and really like, it grew really fast. But because of the sluggish economy and higher technology, we are seeing sharing economy.
Just booming.
Booming, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the distinct characteristics of the sharing economy is to use sources or these resources instead of owning one of everything. So I guess it's highly convenient for people who don't have enough money to purchase, let's say, an office space or, a hotel building or things like that. So what makes it different from, let's say, rental businesses?
I would say, I would argue that it's actually the people that makes it really different. At the core of the sharing economy, it's the people who share their experience, the assets they have. So I would say it's people, that's what makes it different. Whereas when we talk about rental, it's really the physical goods that you think of. Whereas for sharing economy, it's not just assets. It's also services, experiences, knowledge.
Right, yeah.
So if you think about all the things that we used to save such a long time to buy, like a house or a car, I think a big part of the sharing economy is just really on a needs basis, a needs-only basis. So you think about your car, you don't need your car for 80% of the day. Yep. That
really?
One time that you need it, then it's important. But otherwise, it's just collecting dust in the garage, right?
That's true.
Yep. Right. But at the same time, you still save so long, and car payments are what, 4 years in general? Right? So you're spending 4 years of time, 4 years of income on an automobile that you're actually not using 80% of the time.
So 5 years for me.
Really?
This October, I will fully own my car.
Oh, congratulations on that.
But then again, what, 80% of the time, it's just in the 주차장, in the parking lot.
Exactly.
And that's a great point, because everyone has a house they live in. And a lot of times you go out, you travel, and leaving your house empty. So why not just sharing your houses or extra bedrooms to someone who needs them? Yeah.
Right, yeah. So that's, in the US, it seems like a lot of people are allowed to even. But in Korea, it seems like there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to certain apartment buildings. I've seen signs that say, you know, if you catch somebody that are subletting their apartment, then report them to this and this and that. So are the rules getting more stricter here, or are they kind of opening up? Or
I would say we are getting there. It's not so much about opening up or restricting it. It's just that we are going toward the world where there is a regulation for such type of activities. And what's really interesting here is that people in Korea love sharing.
Yes, we do.
We have bimbak, we have hasuk. Even when we eat, we share all these side dishes. We love sharing. So people get the concept of sharing. It's just that law is not out there for people like me, people like regular people to share their extra bedrooms, especially in cities. So we do have bimbak and hasuk, but we just do not have the system yet. We do not have the regulation for that specific type of activities yet. But we do have, I know that there's a bill out there in National Assembly. Government is actively working to pass it. So we're on the right track.
Yeah.
So if you think about how, I mean, the sharing economy is a new economic model, it's a new business model. So you think about the existing business models and how long they've been in place. And so I think that a lot of the resistance that you talked about is we've had this system this way for such a long time, and suddenly not just one company, but many companies at the same time are like, no, you don't need those things the way you used to need them, or in the way that you used to need them. So now everything's changing, and of course there's going to be resistance to those changes.
Sure,
right?
and it just is snowballing. It's continued to grow. I mean, it's going to be, what, a multi-billion-dollar industry?
Yeah, of course, and I think as long as you have, now that you have so much travel coming from Korea outside and spending time in other countries where the sharing economy is just now a regular part of their economies, and then you come back here and you think, well, I want that too, because it's so convenient. And so, of course, policy change depends on the need for change. And when society says, oh, we're ready for it, we experienced it there, now we want it here, the lawmakers, they really don't have a choice. So I think that, of course, as you mentioned, there has been resistance here, both at a social level and in a policy level. But the policymakers really, I think, are not going to have any choice but to change in the future. So, yeah.
And really interestingly, what works in one city might not work in particular different city. So we're working really hard with the government to make sure that we put out a regulation in place that works for the Korean society, for the Korean culture.
Right. So one global consulting firm, they said that the world market for the sharing economy can and will expand to, what, $335 billion in 2025. So that's actually not that far away.
That's B with a billion.
Not a million,
right? Not a million.
Billions. So what can be attributed to this rapid rise in the sharing economy?
Like what Todd was saying earlier, you go out, you experience it once, you like it, you do it again, you love it, then you even share your home. And I do know that Todd has been using Airbnb, has been staying on Airbnb.
Yeah, I think 4 different countries now I've used Airbnb. Yeah, sure.
I've never done it yet.
Oh. Really?
But the idea, I mean, it's just what, roommating, it's bunking with somebody, you know, and if you've heard of the term the couch surfers and things like that. So the idea, it's been here for so long, but then all of a sudden somebody just said, why not make a business out of this?
That's right.
So again, one of the core elements of the Industry 4.0 is this sharing economy. It's one of the main keywords as well for President Moon Jae-in's administration's the innovation-driven growth. So why do you think that is? What potential does it have to be such a big phenomenon?
I would say that it's a shift of the economic model. I would love to argue that in the 80s, it was the manufacturing that really drove the economic growth. But we do not really see that anymore. It has to come from the grassroots level, the communities. And it's really the people who can make the differences and who can actually share their extra bedrooms. We all have bedrooms, houses that we live in. And if you do not use them 100%, like what Todd was saying earlier, why not just sharing them?
Yeah, it's kind of a re-evaluation of what is out there in terms of, I think what you said about transitioning from a manufacturing-based economy to one that's more based on intangibles like services, like experiences, and from an individual's perspective, this kind of model is empowering me.
Yep.
Right? So generally, I live in a place and I pay my landlord money, but then someone who can use my space can pay me money, right? And can pay me to use my car or something else like that. So it's kind of a personal empowerment as well from a perspective where we're generally getting our salaries from a company, but how can we augment that through other things? And this kind of business model allows you to do that.
I love how you described empowerment. The platforms like Airbnb actually is empowering micro entrepreneurs. You are empowering regular people to become micro entrepreneurs.
Well, yeah, I think empowerment because it just allows anybody, who is anybody, to kind of use whatever they have to sell to others. So it could be like their homes, but let's say with clothes. I mean, I'm not using 99% of my closet right now, so why not, lend them out to those fashionistas, because I do have an amazing taste in fashion.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
But I'm sure that there's so many different types of companies that are involved in this sharing economy. So let's take a look at some of the most popular sharing economy platforms right now in the country.
The business environment is quickly evolving, and the sharing economy is an example of that, as it gives consumers access to vast resources and services. Car sharing, accommodation, offices, and even knowledge. The sharing economy is so deeply entrenched in major industries and consumers' lifestyles. The question is, how did it all happen? The key lies in efficiency and economic benefits. The Seoul Metropolitan Government and other local governments have also begun encouraging participation in the sharing economy. Take Seoul Bike, or Dareungi, for example, an unmanned bicycle rental system with cheap costs and the ability to return a bicycle at a different location. It's one of the representative models of the sharing economy in Korea. Another example being office sharing. According to one research institute, Korea's co-working space industry, estimated to be worth about $53 million as of 2017, is projected to grow by a whopping 63% annually over the next 5 years to be worth about $677 million. The number of shared offices is also forecast to grow rapidly, from 75 in 2019 to over 300 in 3 years in 2022. So, we visited one of Korea's well-known co-working space companies. This is WeWork. 3 years after launching, it has a total of 15 branches in Seoul alone. People get access to a wealth of workplace amenities and a thriving professional community here. Pretty much everything they need.
저희 위워크는 단순히 공간 공유 오피스가 아니고요. 저희는 공간과 그리고 서비스와 그리고 테크놀로지 그리고 커뮤니티를 함께 제공하는 글로벌 플랫폼이라고 말씀을 드릴 수 있고요. 편리함과 그리고 실용성 그리고 유연성을 자랑하는 공유경제 기반의 비즈니스는 밀레니얼 세대들을 바탕으로 해서 앞으로도 활발하게 성장이 되고 커질 예정이라고 생각합니다.
From global companies based abroad and startups, many choose to work in co-working spaces. Why?
저런 폰부스와 각종 그런 공간이 많은 게 저는 너무 좋았고, 그리고 중간중간에 쉴 수 있는 라운지라던가 이제 뭔가 조금 여유를 느낄 수 있는 공간이 있다는 게 더 일의 효율성이나 능률을 더 저것이 배를 저한테는 시켜주는 긍정적인 효과를 저한테 줬거든요. 그래서 위워크의 그 공간이 많은 부분이 저는 정말 가장 큰 장점이라고 생각해요.
Shared office spaces provide the freedom people crave, while also giving them the time and tools they need to focus on improving their job performance. In tune with the ever-expanding demand for clever consumption, the sharing economy is disrupting traditional business models and products to better our lives.
So as we just watched.
Yeah, sharing offices. So we heard your office is in WeWork.
Yep.
Right, which is a co-working space that is not just in Korea, it's all over the world now. Right, so actually I have experience in WeWork as well, and you're there now too, so tell us a little bit about your experience.
I think it's not just the co-working space here, it's a lot of those things that we see out there that are not fully utilized. They could include parking lots, could be cars, could be kitchen, could be just anything that you can think of. So what I like about working in such spaces is really interaction with different people that I would not have met, or just getting a bigger benefits of the common spaces.
So I think if you look at as a tenant, you're the tenant company within a co-working space, but also from the building owner's perspective. And Seoul is a very good example of a city which has a tremendous amount of really A-grade real estate that's empty. And so when a company like WeWork or the competitors come into this market and offer them a solution where now your empty building space is not going to be empty anymore, they're not able to sublease it on their own. So to have a service provider like them come in there and resolve this issue for them is also a very positive perspective.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But then what I really like about working in that space is that I see a lot of those startups that say, oh, I really appreciate being given this space with a coffee, different amenities. Sure. And I'm sure that's what you had earlier, right?
Yeah, it's about synergies, I think.
Synergies.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I bet the energy in that space is bumping. I mean, everybody is trying to create something and all these minds are coming together. I mean, different companies, but still, you kind of feel this competition between, oh, I wonder what that company is doing. And
from a startup's perspective, and we're a startup too, you can't go very far on your own. So when you're in a place where everyone else is doing the same thing, and you realize that, wow, there's opportunities to tie up with my neighbor. Yep. And I see what they're doing because the walls are made of glass. Yep. There are open spaces where we can go and drink a beer together and say, well, what is your company doing? Yep. And in traditional office buildings, this is something that has never been the case. And so whether it's a shared car, a driving service where I'm speaking with my driver, that's a person I never would have met before. Yep. At a co-working space, I never would have met my neighbors in another office building. At Airbnb, I never would have met a local person in that neighborhood. So you're not just getting experiences, but you're also getting access to people.
Yep.
And so
access. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going back to Airbnb too, it's regarded as one of the most successful, but also one of the first examples of the sharing economy, examples, if you will. So, I mean, it started its services in Korea not too long ago, around 5 years back in 2014. How much has it grown over these 5 years? Is it
a lot?
Yeah,
it's booming. Also, it's booming. Even Todd here has used Airbnb. He's a big fan of Airbnb here. He uses it all the time, and I stay on Airbnb all the time. And just to give you a stats from last year, in 2018 alone, about 3 million people.
Oh my.
3 million people stayed on Airbnb when traveling Korea.
In Korea alone?
In Korea.
Wow.
3 million people.
That's not small.
Yeah. And just a few years back, it was just a couple 100,000 people.
I didn't know it was 3 million people, but
Yeah.
I think last year inbound tourists in Korea were like 14 million. So out of 14 million people, 3 million tourists are using Airbnb. That's not a small percentage.
Wow. Well, I mean, again, talking about like the legal side to this, because 5 years, it's still, people are getting used to it. I mean, there are people like me who still haven't used Airbnb.
You'll use them sometimes, yes.
I'm sorry. But each country has its own, let's say, local and state regulations for the hospitality business. So what challenges did your company kind of face while adjusting to all of these different types of criteria?
Yep. I would say that it's really the perception or bias that people have on home sharing, I would say. When you think about home sharing, like the numbers are very different. It's really different from a hotel room. I'll throw some numbers here. So a typical host we have in Korea will share his or her bedroom only 3 or 4 nights a month. I mean, if you live in your house, you cannot share your room like every day. Right. And they earn little over 4 million won per year, which means just $300 per month. It's just an extra supplementary income that you have. Obviously, this is very different from hotels where they rent out their rooms like every day, right? So renting out the rooms every day, 365 days a year, is different from renting out your own bedroom 30 days a year. And a lot of people do not know that difference. So people get fear, and they all come from misunderstanding. But I do know that with the education and people learn more about this, you will go away.
So because this is a new economic model, of course there are people who benefit from it, but there are also people who say, this is causing problems. All right, so from your company's perspective, there is friction in Korea with the sharing economy, not just with Airbnb, but with other examples of the sharing economy. So from a company's perspective, how do you deal with that friction?
You go out there and you listen and really share the numbers, share the data we have. And it's not so much about convincing. It's really about listening and talking to see what they are coming from, where they're coming from. And I've seen that, in my experience here, I've seen that people, once they understand, they realize that it's different. It's not a zero-sum game that we are in. It's really creating a bigger pie.
I think one of the biggest issues recently in Korea has been carpooling. So the taxi association here is huge. And so there's been a lot of resistance. It's been in the press for a while about carpooling, how it's taking over and affecting the lives of many taxi drivers all over the country. So you used the example before of listening to the complaints, but this is a really noisy issue here. So what is your take on that?
Like, just to give you an example, if you love staying on Airbnb for economic reasons, you'll not be staying in a 5-star hotel. So it's a different segment. So people realize that. And if you do not understand these numbers, and if you have not heard of this before, if you have not used it, then obviously you become fearful, right? You're worried about taking over your own pie. So that's really something that we have to work.
Sure, but then not only for Airbnb, because you seem quite optimistic with your company, but also with other sharing economy, their platforms. Do you think that they will have a bright future ahead of them, including Uber?
A lot of those startups that I've seen becoming successful recently have the same component that we have, which is the community and the people. It's really people by people, people to people, that really makes those startups succeed. When someone stays on Airbnb, 97% of the money stays in the house, in the neighborhood, right? So if Todd hosts his extra bedroom and I pay $100, $97 goes into his pocket. That stays in that economy. So I think that has played a really big part of our success, because it's actually contributing to the local economy, and that's what everyone wants, what everyone appreciates.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's to making the economy grow a little bit more with the help of the sharing economy. Well, today we zoomed in and out of the potential and challenges for the sharing economy. It certainly is an irresistible economic trend worldwide, not only here in Korea. So let's wait and see how it affects the global economy. Thank you very much once again, Todd and Sang, for your insights today. Also, if you have any questions dealing with the economy, the sharing economy, or so much more, please feel free to contact us via our social media. Wherever you are, there we will be. And we hope to see you next week on The Chamber.
Presidents Moon Jae-in of South Korea and Donald Trump.
Presidents Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump will be sitting down on April 11th.
Economic cooperation can be an option too.